Welcome to the Lifestyle Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Garth Hatch, and super excited for this episode. Been looking forward to doing this for a while. We've got Alex Johnson, fourth-year dental student at Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine. I didn't even know that was a school, or LECOM, they call it, Bradenton, Florida, and also currently doing his fourth-year residency in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is actually really cool that they do that so that there's not a shortage of cases probably. You know, everybody's getting enough cases to get your reps in, get your Rocky cut scene in. So you're doing lots of extractions, lots of operative, lots of endo, whatever you can get your hands on. So that's awesome. I've known Alex since he was a young man, comes from an awesome family, lots of basketball players. Alex can tell you more about that. He was a great basketball player himself. He's got some siblings playing in some college balls. His parents were awesome basketball players, so love to hear a little bit more on that. And then also kind of your journey into dentistry and how things are going as a student. With that said, welcome, Alex.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and happy to be talking with you.
So excited to have you. Hey, just to get started, Alex, because I know a lot about you, but you've got a pretty cool background and family, and maybe give a little intro about yourself and anything you want to cover about Alex Johnson.
All right. Yeah. So like you mentioned, we met when I was younger. My family moved to Germany right before my freshman year of high school. So I was there for freshman and sophomore years while my dad worked for a military school there. And that was hard and awesome all at the same time. Europe is amazing, and it was hard to appreciate as a 14-year-old.
Sure. Yeah. I remember watching some of your games there at that high school in Baumholder.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah. I was grateful to have somebody cheering me on. So that was fun. And then after that, obviously we moved back to the States, and I then moved out of the country again. I served a mission for my church in West Africa in Ghana. So I lived there for 2 years.
Very cool.
And then came back and had a lot of health problems. So I actually ended up dropping out of college for a while, and then restarted, and was so happy and grateful to go to Utah Valley University and found my passion for dentistry there. And they had an early acceptance program. Through that early acceptance program, I had to apply to one school. I got accepted 2 years early, knew where I was going, and found my way to LECOM.
Very cool. What made you choose dentistry? Did you always want to be a dentist, or what was that journey like?
My parents were always kind of pushing me toward medical, and I did like the sciences a lot. In my senior year of high school, I took AP biology and loved it and felt like that was a talent of mine. So I was always thinking medical something. And when I came home from Ghana, my cousin, who is a pediatric dentist, I knew he had a neighbor who was an ophthalmologist. And I thought, oh, that might be cool. So I asked him if I could come up and shadow his neighbor. And he's like, sure, come stay with me, come see my neighbor. But when I came up, his neighbor was like in meetings all the time. And so he's like, well, why don't you come and shadow me? So I realized that I like dentistry better.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think it's a better lifestyle. I think you still have opportunity to have a lot more autonomy, to be the captain of your own ship, to control your practice. And you're not in a big corporation where they dictate when you work, when you don't work, and a lot of other things in a big hospital setting. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I think if somebody offered me an MD, a free MD, or keep my DDS, I would definitely keep my DDS. So good call on that. And tell me about that 2-year program, because that's pretty cool that you got accepted 2 years early. Are they still doing that, or how did that work with LECOM?
They are, yeah. So there was someone who came and spoke to us about it, but they're only contracted with certain schools around the country. So at that time, I was in the leadership of the dental club and in a unique position to set that up at my school. So it took about a year to get it all set up. There was like legal contracts we had to go through, and you know how it is working with bureaucracy of larger educational institutions. So it took a while, but I got it all set up, got everything figured out, and I was the first person to apply. They had me fly out to Florida, and I did an interview there, and they actually will accept people even in high school. So I was there interviewing with I showed up and there were seniors in high school interviewing with me.
That's crazy.
Their mom and dads were there with them, and I'm like talking about my children in the interview. So it wasn't very hard to stand out, but
Sure.
it was great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so LECOM, how many students do they accept each year? What does that school look like?
So up until this next year, it's been 105, and now they are expanding to I think 150.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
they're
wonderful.
growing.
So big school. Yeah. I went to Indiana and it was 96, I think, is our class, 96, 98.
Okay.
We finished with maybe 2 or 3 less than we started with, but yeah, so that
Yeah.
was still considered pretty decent size. So yeah, that's 150. That's going to be a big school, but that's cool. What's the tuition like? What's your tuition and average debt load of a graduating
Yeah.
dental student from LECOM?
Yeah. So if you were to take out all tuition here, that's one of the draws for us was that it was, I think, top 2 or 3 cheapest private schools.
Oh, awesome.
Um, yeah.
That's
So it
good
was
to know.
great. If you were to take out everything, living expenses, tuition, everything, then your debt load would be just over 400,000, like 402, I think.
Mhm. That's still reasonable for dental school. I mean, a lot of people are 500 plus at this point, so it's still a
Yeah.
big chunk of change. There's no doubt. It's still a lot of debt, but you'll pay it off. You'll do well if you're smart. If you go out lean, uh, live like you're still a college student, make good money, and just pay off your debt, you'll pay it off in no time. So that's good.
That's
I'm
why I'm here
sure.
talking to you.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, we'll get you there. Absolutely, help you become a lifestyle dentist. So that'll be good. I remember too in dental school, you had all kinds of students. Some were living on beans and rice and beans, and still driving their '82 Ford Focus that just barely had the wheels going, but they were making it happen. And then you had people using student loans to buy a brand new SUV and all kinds of fancy watches and crazy stuff. I'm like, guys, you realize you're going to pay it back. I mean, it's not like it's free money, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
even our own dental school, debt loads definitely very, very quite a bit. So yeah. So what does the 4 years look like? Is it for me in Indiana? It was kind of like 2 years, very heavy clinic. I mean, very heavy didactic. We did the lab, but nothing patient wise really until the third and fourth year. Third and fourth year was mainly clinical, where we still had some classes, but we did a lot in the clinic. Is it similar? Or how would you describe the layout for dental school?
Yeah. Yeah. We're very similar to that. I mean, as a second year student, they have us integrate in by we're doing a lot of the pro fees, recall appointments, and we are assisting.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are assigned to be in there 3 days a week doing that, but really not much hands on. I worked my way into extracting a few teeth, but it's not like that's a planned thing.
Sure, you got to work for it sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then, how does that transition go? So you did 3 years there, and now you're in your residency. Tell me a little bit more about that. About that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So the third year at LECOM, it almost feels like your senior year because you are the oldest students on campus. The fourth year students are off in a different location.
Mhm.
So we also don't have any residency programs there. So anything that comes our way, we are either approved to do it or we're not, and the patient has to go somewhere else. There's no cherry picking by residents. But then the fourth year, we are able to go to one of 2 locations, and they divide it up. So one half of us, about 50 of us, go to the Panhandle of Florida, and the other half go to Erie, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm at now.
Mhm.
And they run that. Obviously, they still have to follow the guidelines of CODA, but they try and go as hands off as they can, trying to prove more complex cases, and just have us get as many reps in, as much experience as we can here.
Mm-hmm. No, that is good to hear. What would you say is the average, like say the average number of extractions you do before you graduate, average number of root canals, operative crowns, all that kind of stuff? And you may have like a minimum. We had a minimum and then a
Mm-hmm.
maximum, or not, there's no maximum, but you'd have to kind of focus on getting your maximum. For us, we had a minimum of 5 root canals, and I worked to get 25 done, but that was like really high for us. And
Yeah.
I thought I was pretty proficient at endo. Now it makes me laugh, considering after 10,000, I guarantee I'm much better than I was at 25. But anyways, that's how it goes.
Perspective's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get pretty good clinical experience from what I understand. So averages that's an interesting question because they go a little more hands off.
Mhm.
The students who don't want to do a lot really don't have to, and they do not graduate with much experience at all.
Mhm.
But those of us who would like to push hard, I mean, I extracted well over 100 teeth in my first
Awesome.
year.
Good for
So
you.
over 30 crowns. I mean, just a lot of experience
Wait, your first year or
in my
first year?
first clinical
Your
year.
third year, first year in the clinical. That's still
Yeah.
fantastic, though. Good job, Alex. That's awesome. Way to be proactive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I think any dentist, no matter, even if you want to be an orthodontist, every dentist should know how to do an extraction, do basic operative crown
Hmm.
and crown and bridge and endo. If you can at least do that, you can get your teeth get your teeth cut as you go, but at least be competent in that, and have the basics. So that's awesome. That's great.
Sure.
Yeah. And now with this fourth year, what does the fourth year residency look like now?
Yeah. So this has been, so they divide us up. We have, I think, 40 people here in Erie, 40 students, and they have a morning shift and a evening shift. So I am there from my shift runs from 1 to 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I show up a little earlier to set up and go through patient charts and whatever, but
Sure.
they let us schedule however we like. We can recruit our own patient rosters, but they also have just a ridiculous amount of patients. We're, as
Mm-hmm.
far as I understand, the only Medicaid provider in a like a 200,000 area draw.
Great.
So we get just a lot of patients. So I'm usually seeing anywhere between 3 and 6 patients a day.
Nice.
Um, every once in a while, if I have a bigger case and the patient feels like they can tolerate it, we'll pull some nitrous out and just prep as many crowns as we can, extract some teeth, whatever, just multiple quadrants at a time,
Mm-hmm.
over several hours. Yeah. I mean, I've been here for 4 weeks, so I've been getting a feel for it, but I think I've so far extracted 30 teeth, done about that many fillings, several crowns, and then quite a few endos. So
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah, that is
things are
awesome.
going, they're moving.
That's great. That is fantastic. And what's the clinic professors like? Do they have full-time professors? Do they have part-time dentists that come that help with the school, or how does that work with the program?
Yeah. So in Bradenton, it was nice. We basically, Florida is a place where everyone retires, right? And that includes dentists. So we had a bunch of dentists that worked for 40 years and then came to Florida and got bored of the golf course. So they come
Okay.
in 2 or 3 days a week and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of shoot the breeze with us and
Mm-hmm.
give advice as needed.
Mm-hmm.
Up here, it's different. People don't retire to Erie, Pennsylvania. So a lot of them are younger. There's a lot of them are still practicing, and they have a lot of energy, which is good because we're running them hard.
Yes. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's huge. And so, fourth year, when is the graduation date?
So my last day of clinic, I think, is end of May, like May 20th, something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and then graduation is in early June, June
Mm-hmm.
5th or 6th. We have to go back down to Florida for graduation, but
Sure. That makes sense. Now that you're in your fourth year, if you were to talk to somebody just starting dental school, or they're getting ready to finish their college and get into dental school, what advice would you give them?
a lot of things. I guess if I had to narrow it down, one thing that I would say, I didn't realize that there was, or that there may be a significant, not a significant, but there are differences between private schools and public schools, and the difference doesn't start and stop with tuition prices.
Hmm.
Um, because my school's a private school, in a lot of ways, it's run like a business.
Hmm.
So I am I am doing a lot of the business aspect. It's almost like I'm running my own practice,
Mm-hmm.
managing my own patient roster, filing insurance claims, doing everything,
Wow, you're
which
even
is
filing
great.
insurance claims.
Yeah, doing
That's cool.
pre-auths, explaining EOBs, everything.
That is fantastic. That is actually really helpful because I'll be honest, I still could not file an insurance claim myself. At
Yeah,
least I should say I could, but I would have to definitely go through the challenge of doing that because we didn't do it in the military. And when I bought a practice, I had some great team members that were already doing it. So yeah, that's actually neat that you can say I can file an insurance claim.
I know enough to know that I'm willing to pay someone else to do
Yes,
it.
that's a good lesson to have.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
so I don't know how other schools work, but I do know that's how ours works.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing that I would say is with a private school and potentially with a public school, I would look up. You can get on like Glassdoor and look up employee reviews. How happy? What is the work life culture like for those employees?
Mhm.
Because they have the potential to make your life wonderful or not.
Mhm.
And I've experienced both.
Mhm.
But that was a way that I don't know. Sometimes students might be a little worried about sharing fully what the culture is like at a school.
Mhm.
I don't want to be on record of saying this or that, or
Sure.
Um, so looking up things like that can be helpful because
Mhm.
people who've worked there and understand the culture of the institution will write a review on it and let you know the real picture. They don't work there anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. No, that's a really good point. And dental school is one, it's definitely gotten a lot more competitive too. I mean, I even when I applied, and I was a little different. I had not planned on doing dental school. I was planning on being a fireman like my dad when I was growing up, and switched to physical therapy when I realized uh, going to BYU they didn't have a fire science school program, so switched to physical therapy because I liked exercise. And then it was like almost my senior year when a buddy of mine was telling me about dentistry, how they make good money and good lifestyle. I'm like, all right, sign me up. So
it sounds good.
yeah, so that was a different switch. But as far as with the next phase, with you as getting ready for to become a true dentist, as you graduate this next year, what are some things you're going through right now in your fourth year?
Yeah, right now I'm trying to balance four things. So I mentioned earlier that I'm married. I have three kids,
Mhm.
and that is a really important part of life to me.
Sure.
That's a way for me to relax. It's also a stressful part of life.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I want to make sure to be a present and caring husband and father.
Hmm.
So that's been something I work to balance through all of dental school.
Hmm.
The next thing is my clinical responsibilities, just trying to get as many reps and experiences as possible. And I guess
Nice.
that would be another piece of advice I would give to someone starting is if your preceptors approve something for you,
Hmm.
do it. It doesn't matter if you don't know or don't feel comfortable doing it.
Hmm.
Always do it
Hmm.
because you are in a phase of life where you really don't know anything about dentistry other than a
Yeah.
textbook. So just do
Yeah.
it. That's the way
Yeah.
to learn it.
Totally agree with
I had a,
that. Especially while you have somebody that's got your back there. It's a little
they
more
can hop
scary
in
when
and
you're
help you.
by yourself in a clinic and, oh, I got to do this complex extraction. You can get yourself in trouble real fast if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Whereas when you're in dental school or residency, you've got some great mentors behind you. If you get stuck, yeah, it
Yes.
gives you a lot more confidence to try some hard things. So I think that's smart.
Just do it. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's my motto in the clinic
Overnight,
is
just do it.
just do it.
That
um,
reminds we should just a little bit on your family background because you were a great
yeah.
basketball athlete in your own right. You got a lot of basketball. Tell me about the Johnson family.
Yeah. Yeah. We're basketball people. So my grandpa played in college. My dad played in college. And then I have two brothers and a sister, and every one of us has had the chance to play basketball in college. I did not take that chance, but my brothers and my sister did. So I have a brother who just finished playing at BYU, and
Spencer. Yeah,
yeah, Spencer,
yeah.
and then a younger brother, Isaac, who's playing at Utah State right now, and my sister Gracie's also at Utah State.
Yep. Yeah. No, all of them awesome young men, young women, and just, yeah, cool family. And your
And
parents are the best. Yeah. I love your
thank you.
parents. They're great
They're
friends.
wonderful people, and I'm grateful to be raised by them.
Yes, I would 100% agree on that. No, that's awesome. Well, good. And so you mentioned you're going to be going to Alaska. Why are you going to Alaska?
Yeah, so I'm balancing family, I'm balancing school, I'm balancing studying for boards, and then I'm balancing looking for an awesome job.
Mhm.
So I have looked all over the country. I have a family to provide for, and I'm trying to get my best foot out in front of me in that first job to get experience and just be in a place where I feel like I can hold to my ethical standards that I believe in and just get a lot of experience and get ready for practice ownership and paying loans. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I have put myself out there in a lot of places, and one of those places is Alaska. We're going up
Mhm.
there in a few weeks
Yeah.
to check it out, see what we think.
Yeah. That's awesome. And top advice I would give to anyone getting ready to graduate from dental school is first go somewhere where you're going to get into a good practice scenario where you can do a lot of reps. You can do a lot of clinical work. That could be, for me, it was in the military I did a 1 year AGD and then my endo residency and then just working in the military for 7 years. For others, it could just be getting a good associateship or a residency or something, but ideally somewhere where you're going to get a lot of good clinical experience, hopefully some mentorship still, because, and I know you're getting a lot more experience than most, which is awesome, but really I say most dentists are just barely not dangerous when they graduate dental school. And that's the truth.
Right.
I didn't feel that way when I graduated. I felt like I was actually pretty good clinically. And I feel like I was at least not dangerous, but there's so much I didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes
Right.
sense.
I
And
was in, yeah.
yeah, it's not you, it's not me, it's anybody. It's just like basketball. I mean, you come from a basketball background. The best high school player is nowhere near Michael Jordan's level, and it just, you've got to put the reps in. You've got to have the thousands and thousands of hours of clinical work, of doing difficult cases and easy cases and everything alike, getting your speed up, make sure that you're proficient. I recommend ideally starting somewhere where you may not want to live the rest of your life because you're going to mess some things up. It's the truth. And you don't want to get a bad reputation where you want to spend the rest of your life. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes people go and they get a great scenario and a great mentor that's going to help them along and they end up buying the practice, and that's ideal. But I'd say majority that doesn't happen. Usually you go somewhere, it doesn't work out for whatever reason, and you end up moving somewhere else. And I think that's okay, because that way you can get your screw ups done in another geographic location. So when you go to where you either buy a practice or set up start a practice yourself, that you're pretty solid clinically. Hopefully, at least 2 to 3 years. For me, like I said, 7 years in the military, but I think at least 2 to 3 years where you really get some good experience, get some good reps under your belt, and then you're going to be doing well. And then also learn about the business side of dentistry, because that's one thing they don't talk a lot about in dental school. Is ultimately, if you are not planning on being an associate the rest of your life, and and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being an associate the rest of your life. But if you want to run a practice, you need to understand the business side. You need to know how to read a profit and loss statement, how to balance your budget with the clinic. If you start a clinic, you want to get what you need, but don't build a Taj Mahal right off the bat, because you don't want a huge amount of debt that's just weighing you down, so that you may make dumb choices on treatment planning, things like that, just because you got to pay the bills. That's not a fun situation. And that's another good benefit of associating somewhere for a couple of years. Really stash some cash. I say just live like you're still a college student, and hopefully you're making 100,000, 200, 400,000, whatever you're making, and just start to put that away, pay off your debt. And so you'll have a little cash flow set aside when you do decide to make the jump into either buying a practice or starting a practice or buying into a practice, whatever that looks like. And then also improve your communication skills, how to talk to your patients, how to talk to your staff, how do you handle implant that goes south or a root canal that doesn't work. Know those verbal skills, what to say, how do you present treatment plan successfully and effectively. How do you present treatment plan when you're presenting a case that's not ideal and it's questionable, best case scenario? And ultimately, that one thing I've learned on that is ultimately it's their tooth. And so I just need to give them the good, the bad, and the ugly and let them decide. Yeah, some people are like, hey, even if it's a 20% chance, I want to roll the dice and try it. It's my tooth. I mean, just like it's your arm. Do you want to cut your arm off because it may not work? I would. But others are like, hey, if it's not 95% successful, I want to pull it. Great. That's their choice. Their choice. That's their tooth, So, but at least you gave them the options. So knowing all those skills is really helpful when you get out. And ultimately, you still won't know everything. And that's where I think getting good mentorship, good coaching when you get out, somebody that has a vested interest to help you skip a lot of mistakes and get 20 years worth of experience your first year from some good mentorship. That's something I did. I got a really good mentor named Ace Gorig when I bought an endodontic practice in Washington. And as I said, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it's so nice to ask somebody when issues come up with staff or with insurance or with legal issues. So many things come up that you just don't know the answer. And when you can have somebody that's been there, done that, it really does help a lot. And you save so much time. At the time, I think the cost was $25,000. And for me, that was like a huge amount of money. But with his help, I paid it off in like 1 or 2 months, from additional help and cost savings and being more efficient. So don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. Get good advice. And that could be all kinds of good mentors out there. Us with Lifestyle Dentists, it could be another program. It could be a good mentor. Wherever you get it, just get somebody that's really going to help you along the way and going to take your phone calls when you do get in a pinch, to help you out.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good advice.
I'm glad this was recorded.
Yeah, no, awesome. It'll be a good social media cut.
Yes.
So yeah, what are some of the biggest challenges as you get ready to transition from dental school into private practice? What are some things that are maybe keeping you up at night?
Endo.
Endo?
No, that's actually a focus for me this year. I really want to get a lot more experience with that because I've got, like you said, I've gotten to the point now where I realize I'm just dangerous enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a big focus for me. But so one of the things that my wife and I are really focusing on is trying to make sure that we get a good first job that will set us up for a lot of things so we can move to where we want to. We can afford to buy a practice or start up a practice. We'll see where we go with that. Get into a home. Our kids have been moving around all over the place, and we're excited to get established as a family at some point. So I think that's kind of our main keep me up at night type of thing. Not that it's keeping us up at night, but that's what we think about, talk about a lot.
Yeah, totally understand and totally can relate. When I was in dental school and the military, it still was something that we're always thinking about. And on 2 notes on that, one, endo, and it could be endo, it could be implants, it could be anything. You can be great at anything, but you can't be great at everything, And so just kind of choose right now when you're in school and even when you're an associate, figure out the things that you like to do. Do a lot of everything right now. Just get your reps in and get a feel for things that you like and things you don't like and things you can do predictable. Because I think the biggest enemy of dentists, especially a general dentist where you really can do anything, is figure out what you enjoy and what you can do predictably and do lots and lots of that. As an endodontist myself, I know and work with hundreds of dentists, general dentists, and it's nice because I get a good back end view of their practices and which ones have done very well financially, which ones have struggled. And the ones that I know personally that have done very well, they are great clinicians. They can do just about anything, but yet they also choose not to do everything. They uh, know what they're really good at, what they can do predictably, and they do a ton of it. And they refer the things that they can't do predictably. And usually that starts out with either endo, wisdom teeth, implants, things like that. And it doesn't mean that a general dentist can't do that. They could do any of those, but you just got to know how to do it predictably and really put the time in to get solid on that. And so you may want to be an implant expert. Awesome. I know a lot of general dentists that are great at implants. And so just take the time to get that extra training, become really proficient at it, get your reps in and do a ton of it, or probably don't do it because
Right.
it's not worth cost wise even to try to be great at implants, great at ortho, great at wisdom teeth, great at endo, great at crown and bridge, great at dentures. It's just there's not enough time in the day to become excellent at all those. And so
Sure.
that's a big lesson I would give to anybody also as they are getting ready to start a practice.
Nice. Thank you. I appreciate that because it's not just a financial fee; it's a stomach lining fee too. I mean,
Right,
sometimes.
right. Yeah. Yeah. You want to be able to sleep at night. You don't, you want to avoid lawsuits. You want to avoid just nonsense like that. And just even efficiency, you can make so much more money when you're efficient because if you can do 5 crowns and at the same time it takes you to do one root canal or one implant that goes south and a lot of headaches, it may not be worth it. And so not to mean don't do it because again you can do anything you want, just choose the things that you can do proficiently. And that's the nice thing about both when you're in dental school and then also as you either do a residency or as you associate somewhere or even work for a DSO, whatever that is. Just go somewhere where you're going to make good money, you can get a ton of reps and do a lot of different types of dentistry because that way you can really hone your skills and see the things you really enjoy and the things that you hate, and
Sure.
just get that out on somebody else's dime, essentially, where you're not going to probably live in that area the rest of your life. So, and not to say that you couldn't live there because sometimes it will end up perfect and you'll be good, but yeah, just find somewhere that you can get a lot of reps in. What's some other things that you're considering as far as with your transition with graduation? Any other things that you're working on or thinking about?
Yeah, timeline is a big one.
Hmm.
So, I mean, every job that every doctor we've spoken to offers different things and different timelines for contracts. Like personally, and I know that you mentioned you got your MBA, your master's in book accumulation.
Yes, yes.
So I have read a lot of, like you have suggested, a lot of dental business books, listened to, at this point, thousands of podcasts about
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
just trying to learn it. And we're trying to keep that learning period before practice ownership in like a 3 years or less type of timeline, just to be able to get into ownership and start reaping some of those tax benefits and investing benefits that come from being a business owner, lifestyle benefits in a lot of ways. So that's a big one we've been looking at as well is how long do they want to keep us on? How much experience can they give me so that I feel comfortable after 1 or 2 or 3 years?
Hmm.
What's our financial state going to look like after that?
Hmm.
So I don't know what you would recommend, but definitely we're trying to keep that within 3 years or less timeline.
Yeah, totally understand. Yeah, and I think 3 years is good. I would say minimum 2 years, to be honest. but by 2 to 3 years, if you put the time in and just like you're doing now, I mean, you're being proactive in dental school. I think that's so smart to get your reps in. If you're proactive in a residency or a associateship for 2 to 3 years, I think you'll be solid. And really, as I get older, a year used to seem like so long, I'm like, that's a whole nother year of my life. But if you it's productive time and you're still making money, you're paying off debt, you're learning how to be faster, hopefully even getting some mentorship. Hopefully the senior dentist is giving you some mentorship and helping you clinically. It's time well spent because every year you do it, you're going to be better at 2 years than you are at one, and you're going to be better at 5 years than you were at two, and on and on. You're going to be better at 20 years than you were at 15 years. It just is what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just putting in useful reps. And so if you could put in a good solid 2 to 3 years, I think you'll be ready. And I mean, how old are your kids now? What's your oldest?
He's 5 right now. Just turned 5 a couple weeks ago.
He's 5. So I mean, you got another year. I mean, oldest would be 9. I mean, it seems really old. But Peyton, my son Peyton, he was 8 when we left the military, and so that was kind of weird. That it seemed he was so old, but yeah, I look back, I'm like he was just a little guy, and so it's all relative. When they were young, we moved a lot. When we were in the military, you can tell where my career was, where my kids were born, because Peyton was born in Indiana, where I went to dental school, and Katie was born in South Carolina, where I was doing a 1 year AGD. Corinne was born in Georgia, where I was doing my endo residency, and then Marcus was our German souvenir. I was stationed in Germany, where we met, where Marcus was born, and then oh, our youngest was our only Washingtonian, where he was born in our. We were settled, born in our nice house, and money's not the struggle that it was. And although
Moving
they
in
all have their
different.
benefits, I feel sorry for him because he's like an only child. There's like an 8 year gap, whereas the others all had each other play. So everybody got their pluses and minuses. But yeah, you could definitely tell my career where my kids were born.
Nice.
So, but again, when you're young, it's fun to travel. I mean, you lived in different places. I mean, when you're uh, growing up, it's not as tough. You probably had it harder being in high school. I know because once you get into middle school, high school, it does become a little bit trickier. But if you put in a couple years, your kids are still in elementary school or barely starting middle school, I think you'd be okay. But you'd have a good advantage unless something the perfect situation came up and you just had to jump for it. I mean, then go for it because you'll do well wherever you go, Alex. I mean, you really have the people skills. You've got the proactive attitude. You're doing automobile university, like Zig Ziglar would say, where you're listening to podcasts when you're driving or working out, reading books, doing all that smart thing to really learn and get the lessons, as many lessons as you can from experts. Get that 30 years of experience uh, in a $5 book, whatever it is, or a podcast or something else. And that's going to really help and get good mentorship. And I'll definitely be there for you when those crazy questions come up. So yeah, that's something to help. And there's others too. So yeah, just being proactive. But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. But I think within 3 years, you could definitely be there. 2 to 3 years for what that's worth.
Great. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we're excited. I mean, there has been so many lessons that I have picked up from that type of recommendation from you. Is, I mean, I got a rowing machine earlier on in dental school, and that has helped my posture, my back, my neck, just to keep me healthy and fit and not feeling the pain. Granted,
Mhm.
we'll see how it is when I see a lot more patients every day, but just even things like that have
Yeah.
been so helpful to me.
Good for you. No, that is so smart too. It really is. Dentistry is one where it's really good money, but it can wear on your body. I had that myself when I was pretty much on my own. I bought a guy's practice he pretty much had one foot out the door right when I bought it. He stayed on for a little bit after. Nice guy, but it was just he'd sold his practice. His heart wasn't there anymore, and so I was the guy that would be available any time of day, weekends, whatever, to get patients in. And it helped initially because I was able to grow really fast and had some good mentorship to grow. But it also took a toll where I started having some neck and back pain. And usually go away by the time the weekend came. And then Monday I'd be all right. But it got to a point where it was really hurting. And I was scared that, man, I had no backup. You know, if I couldn't work, my practice would go under. And I was obviously the sole provider and had a lot of debt still and uh, from buying the practice and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's a stressful situation. But if you can use good posture, ideally get to where you can live the lifestyle dentist, which in my recommendation, what that looks like is build up your practice to where you can bring on a good associate within the first couple years, and that way you can go from working 5 or 6 days a week to hopefully 3 to 4 days a week. And at that, you can maintain that for decades. I know a lot of dentists that work roughly 3 days a week, and they're working in their 70s and beyond. They're healthy. They have that extra time off where they can go skiing, they can go on vacation. They've got coverage, even just mental stress that knowing if I got sick or my kids have a game or whatever, there's somebody else that can be in the clinic. We can be open, but I don't necessarily have to be there. So that's a big part of it. Get your practice profitable where you're making good money and you've got income coming in. And then that way you can start to invest in passive income producing assets. My favorite's real estate. Invest in real estate, and that real estate's kind of like planting trees. The best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago or 20 years ago. The next best time is today. You're not going to make a lot of money right off the bat, but it'll, with time, as long as cash flowing right off the bat, it will continue to cash flow more and more, and the appreciation keeps going up. You get a lot of good write-offs, and eventually you can get to the point where you're working because you want to, not because you have to, and that's a nice situation. And you can even go down to, like right now I'm working about 2 days a week in the clinic, and so I can have time to do the lifestyle dentist and do other fun things and travel. And we're going to be going to Thailand here soon, and
Nice.
looking forward to that. Yeah, Corinne just graduated, so we're taking her for her graduation trip. And I couldn't do that if it was just me. You know, the practice would be closed, and so we were able to do fun things like that because we have leverage and a great team, other great dentists that can cover, and vice versa. I can cover them when they want to have a good lifestyle and go on vacation, things like that. So it's a nice scenario, and you probably can't get that right off the bat, but hopefully with time you can get there, and it's nice. And that could be also buying into a good practice. You know, you may be buying into a practice where you've got that coverage, but I do think it's nice long term to have at least one other provider in the practice. That way it's not all on you, so you can take good care of your neck and back and still do well.
Sure, I appreciate it. I mean, that's the American dream, right? To be able to own a business and control your life. So
Yep.
that's been just festering in my head for a long time. But
Yeah. Yeah. You'll get there. I 100% uh, am confident you'll get there because you're doing all the right things now. So that's good.
thank you.
As we wrap up, I want to be respectful of your time, and we're doing this on the 4th of July, celebrating Independence Day and freedom, and fun day. I know it's tough when you're in a residency getting free time, but this is a good time for me to do it before we're gonna go do some fun fireworks and barbecue. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but I want to get a couple podcasts in before going to Thailand. I'm not sure what my Wi-Fi access is going to be like there, so good time to do it. But as we wrap up, what are some things that you are doing to prepare for that transition? Any certain things that you're doing? I know you mentioned podcasts. any other things you'd recommend to students as they get ready to graduate to do to prepare to make that transition?
Yeah. A lot of the concerns that I think my classmates have are things that I don't have because I've been preparing in certain ways.
Hmm.
For example, treatment presentation, like you
Hmm.
said, that is something that I have worked very hard at, whether it be in the mirror or recording myself or,
Smart.
and I just, people say yes. I mean,
Hmm.
it's easier in dental school, but people say yes. And I get a lot of treatment that I would not get. Another one is the speed.
Hmm.
I've worked at timing myself, even when I was in the lab working.
Hmm.
Um, those are things that it just requires you to put the work in. It's not really like some complex task.
Hmm.
So I can see a lot of patients every day, and I feel like my speed will be close to what it needs to be to produce what I want to out of
Hmm.
school.
Hmm.
Um, Being able to catch cases that like knowing where I feel comfortable
Hmm.
is something I've tried to focus a lot on, where I can not get myself into a terrible situation and patients frustrated, I'm stressed. And anyway, so those are things that I have worked really hard on. And I think, like I said at the beginning, if the professor approves it, do it. But I think that has helped me to realize where I'm feeling comfortable and what is, like you said, predictable,
Yeah.
especially for when I first get out. And then I can push the boundaries a little bit here, a little bit there. But those are a few pieces of advice. And I guess the last one is dental school. I don't know how you felt about it, but dental school can be really frustrating and overwhelming. I felt
Hmm.
like I was a good student, and then I got here and realized I'm not super smart compared to these people. They're very intelligent people here, and so just choosing to not be negative about it, but finding the positives and how much I'm learning and growing, and the blessings I'm seeing, and the patients I'm helping. Um, that has helped me to find a lot of joy in these few
Hmm.
years. So,
That's super smart. Well, and I think that's in life, that's really smart. Focusing on the things you can control and the things you can't control. There's as Stephen Covey talks about, your area of influence and your area of concern. We're concerned about the weather, concerned about politics, concerned about a lot of things that we have very little to no control over. And so if we spend most of our time worrying about that, it's just disempowering. Similar when you're in dental school, there's the same nonsense we all have to deal with when you're in dental school. Hopefully, it's not too bad, and there's a lot of good things too. But yeah, just focus on the positive, focus on the things you can control, get the most out of what the situation you're in, be that in dental school, be that in life, even if you're going through a struggle. Uh, what am I? What can I learn from this situation? And then spend most of your time on things that you can control. Focus on your area of influence, and as you do that, your area of influence will grow, and you'll be able to have more influence even over your area of concern as you grow that. And so I think that's smart. You also said something too, as far as role playing and practicing presenting treatment, other things like that. That is so smart. I highly recommend keep doing that. Get really good at your verbal skills. Also have your staff get really good at their verbal skills, and you can train them yourself. You can hire somebody, but make sure that they are really dialed in on how they present financial options, how they present treatment planning, how they greet a patient, how they answer the phones. All those things make such a difference. And some people are like, well, I just don't feel comfortable role playing or practicing as a team or whatever, or by yourself in the mirror. But it makes such a difference. I mean, we think about somebody in Hollywood. Why do we love certain actors? And they just make it look easy, but they practice their role over and over and over, and it doesn't seem like a script because it comes off so smooth. But they practice that dozens of times to make it smooth so that it just flows off their tongue naturally. And when you're putting in that practice, that's how you get there. There's just no other way to do that. And also to have some feedback while you're doing it so that somebody can go, this is good, maybe do this a little better. I heard sometimes when I'm listening on a podcast, even it looks like almost like I'm frowning, like I'm, and I didn't realize that till somebody pointed out. So like, oh, I need to make sure I'm smiling more even when I'm listening, and so having that little extra feedback as you do role playing can help just do little things to dial in your skills. And so, yeah, I think that's really smart.
Thank you.
Awesome. One other question too, any books that you would recommend? You mentioned reading some books, and any favorite books that you would recommend either to help dentists or just in life in general that have made an impact on you?
Yeah. Oh, here's my boys. They're coming to
Oh,
say
I
hi.
love it. Bring them in. I love that. That's not interruption. That's what life's all about, man. Who's
Good.
this little guy?
This is Ronnie. Just woke up from his nap.
Love it. Ronnie, how are you, buddy?
I didn't take a nap. I sure did, but
Oh, well,
didn't take a nap, but I
good.
did rest and
You
close
did rest?
my eyes.
Okay.
Oh, it's good to rest and close your eyes too. I need to do that too, Ronnie.
Well, I
That's awesome.
real nap.
Oh, good. Good.
Oh,
Well, I would recommend my three of my favorites. There's so many other that are great, but first one is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
yeah, great.
Second one is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Right.
And the third would be, I'm drawing a blank on it. Jocko Willink's book about leadership, Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership. Yeah, that's a great one on leadership and management. And yeah, awesome. Love those. Those are fantastic. Yeah, highly recommend those as well. Those are great books. Great. Hey, so great to connect with you, my friend. And I am looking forward to hearing about the next steps, both where you decide to go as you finish your last year and that transition, and happy to help anytime. You know that.
I appreciate it.
Love you, love your family, and excited for you to become a lifestyle dentist, and you definitely will. You are already have things mapped out pretty well, and you're doing things right. So smart on that. On that note too, that you just did mention, as far as some of your fellow dental students, what is in your class, like what is the makeup up like look like? I mean, is it age wise, male female ratio, mainly Florida residents, out of state residents? I'm curious what your dental school makeup is like right now.
Yeah, so it's 50-50 female male, which I think is pretty standard at this point.
Yeah.
Most of the people are from Florida or from the South.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few that are like Pennsylvania, Ohio area, just because the main headquarters of the medical school branch of our school is here in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a few years younger than me. I'm 28, so most of them are about 26 right now. And
which is young, by the way. There's a guy
yeah,
at my dental school that was 44 when he started. So yeah, it's all relative.
really,
Yeah.
wow. So yeah, I mean, I don't know other demographics that you're looking for, but that's the picture right now. Almost no one is. We have maybe 9 people that are married, and I think 7 of those have at least one child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And that is definitely a different demographic that I think people that want to run their own practice and have their own business should be aware of that in general, because when I graduated, I think it was more like 80-20 male female. It was starting to get more females, but it was still, especially the existing dentist was way more male than female. Now it's more 50-50, and some schools even hire more females than males. And so that's definitely a changing demographic in the field, which is awesome. I think it's great, because I know a lot of female dentists that are great clinicians. They have that caring heart where their patients relate to them really well. They have smaller hands. Sometimes they can get in there and do some great dentistry in some tight spots. In general, they typically work about a day to day and a half less than their male counterparts, from the last study I saw. And I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons for that. Just maybe they're raising a family, just lifestyle, different reasons. But that also makes a situation where if you want to be really busy and have a great practice and also have a good lifestyle to have these females as either associates or partners, so they can have a great lifestyle and also do a lot of great dentistry. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. So that's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate having you on, Alex. Any last parting words as we wrap this up?
Just do
Just do it,
it.
man. I love it. I love it. Just as Nike, just do it. Well, hey, thank you so much. Best wishes with this last stage of dental school. And I know a lot of people are going to get some great value out of this. A lot of good advice for people in dental school as they're getting ready to transition, even people that are out of dental school, some good things and a lot of golden nuggets that you drop. So looking forward to getting this podcast out here. So thanks so much, Alex. Best wishes, my friend, and we will talk soon. And
Thank
for
you.
all of our audience members, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to another exciting episode with the Lifestyle Dentist. Best wishes.